Hi, everybody. This is Alex from the Astro Imaging channel, and Salvatore's here, and Salvatore's going to talk to us about AstroBin. Salvatore, take it away.
All right. Good morning, everybody, or good evening, or good day. Let's just go for good day. It's 3:30 in the morning over here in Switzerland, and actually it's now 3:55, and I just barely woke up. So please excuse me if I sound tired. My family is asleep in the other room. And this whole presentation is actually a child of the night because I came up with the schedule, with the cue sheet, with what I'm going to talk about when I was having chills and fever from my second COVID vaccine. And it was in the middle of the night and I couldn't sleep. And my brain was like hyperactive from the fever. And I started taking voice notes to myself to prepare for this. So everything that comes up might be maybe sometimes a bit random. By the way, my name is Salvatore Iovene. I'm the owner of AstroBin.com, which you may know. It's been online since 10 years now. It's had its anniversary recently. It's the image hosting platform and social network for astrophotographers. And I like to call it the home of astrophotography. So everything that I'm going to talk about some beginnings. I'm going to talk about some background information, some history, some tidbits, some backstory, some behind the scenes, how I work, and lots of these things. But first, a little bit about myself. Hosting platform and social network. I'm 40 years old. I'm Italian. I live in Switzerland at the moment. I like to call it the home of astrophotography. I'm married. I have two kids. I have a girl who's 9 and a boy who's some beginnings. We live in Switzerland. My wife is Finnish, so before that we were living in Finland. So I lived there for 12 years. During which I worked as a software engineer for various companies, one of which was Nokia. Lots of these things. I worked at Nokia doing mobile phones, doing apps. I'm 40 years old. I'm Italian. The operating system layer and some like core apps like the call app. Married. I have 2 kids. The messaging app for some phones back in the day. This is like before the iPhone revolution, but we had some nice devices going on. Then after Nokia, I worked at Intel. The CPU manufacturer. I was in software department, and we were working on just in general pushing the web forward as a big strategy item for Intel at the time. So I have contribution to Google Chrome, contributions to various popular JavaScript libraries, and so on. Then I moved to Switzerland in 2017, and I started working at a company focused on UX research. And today I'm here and finally working full-time on AstroBin after like basically side hustling for 10 years. More of this later. I'm very privileged and very happy to be doing this, but I'll touch on that. So short intro about me. I want to talk about my beginnings as a programmer because this is something that like brought me here. It defines my identity. And it's what I am today. It's the thing that most defines me, I would say. Being a programmer, even before being somebody who is interested in astronomy, it's kind of what defines me. And the story goes that I was about 9-year-old, and a cousin or a friend of a family, I don't remember, gifted or sold me a computer, my first computer. And it was like this. It wasn't a Commodore. It was a bit after that. It was an Olivetti PC 128 or something like that. And it came with the book. And the book, it was a book about BBC Basic, a programming language. And I was 9 and I didn't understand. And I thought, so the book had some explanation about the programming language. And then at the back of the book, there were some listings for some software. There was one game. It was like a gorillas throwing bananas at each other, and it was the full source code of this game. And 9-year-old me thought, hey, look at all these pages of weird text, and what is this? And I thought it was a secret code that if you type it into the computer, it would unlock the secret game. So I started typing it, and I copied all these pages and pages of code. And then in the end, I got it running. And then I had to make several mistakes in the way because I wasn't sure about some things. and then I made a mistake, and then I had to start over all over again. It took hours just to copy all that stuff. And then in the end, I got the game running. I was super hyped and super excited. And then I played it, and then it clicked in me, and I was like, hey, what if I change some of these lines? And then I typed it all over again, changing lines. And that's how I discovered programming. And then I was 9, and then I never stopped. So for the past 31 years, or let's say I never stopped, but maybe during the teenage years, I was on and off. But this is the thing that defines me and that brought me here ultimately. And regarding my beginnings with astronomy, I was always interested in astronomy as a little kid. By now, you can probably tell that I was a little geeky as a kid, interested in computer programming and astronomy at 9 or 10-year-old. So, but that's me. When I was 13 or 14, I got gifted a telescope from my parents, because I guess I don't remember really, but I guess I insisted, and I got that. And it was your classic Newtonian 114 millimeter telescope. And we lived in a suburban area. It was quite light polluted, and we lived in a building. And every night I would like lug this telescope up the stairs to the roof, and I would look at Jupiter and Saturn and the Orion Nebula and the Andromeda Galaxy, and those are the things that I remember. That they were my wow moment, that made that kind of hook and got me hooked to this thing. And again, this is something that never really left me. I was on and off with it during my teenage and early 20s, because I didn't have lots of opportunities to observe. I mean, I live in a big metropolitan area, like suburban, but metropolitan, so kind of very light polluted. And I was a kid, so I couldn't like drive to dark sites, and so I wasn't observing very often, but I was reading books, and I was always interested in this. And all these things, they got me to the place where I am today, and it's really great for me, because I get to put together two things that really define me and that I really love, which is programming and astronomy, and they go together into one place, which is AstroBin. So how did this start? So the thing is that when I was younger, I was just basically observing. Then when I was in Finland and I was working, I had more money as I was working, so I could afford to get into to try astrophotography. What happened is that I remember that I was on my honeymoon, and we were in France. We took a cycling trip, honeymoon, and one night we were in this countryside hotel, and the sky was just so dark, and I saw it, and it just like sparkled the interest in me again. And I was about 28, I guess, at the time. And so I decided to get into it again and try astrophotography. So I bought the equipment, and it was very frustrating. It was very frustrating because it was very difficult, very technical, even from somebody who is an engineer. And, I got this like technical mindset. It's a hobby, as everybody knows in this channel. I guess I don't need to say it, but still, it's very technical, and so many things that can go wrong, right? So my beginnings were very frustrating. And one of the things that I was always thinking is that, okay, what can I expect from this equipment that I got? I had no idea, because I got a Canon camera and an 80 millimeters ED80 semi-apochromatic refractor, and I didn't know what to expect with it. My question was, with my equipment, with the condition of the sky where I image at, with this integration time, for instance, I was doing deep sky, what should I expect? So I went on Google and I tried to Google something, but it didn't help, because if I Googled for my camera and my telescope and the M81 Galaxy to find images that people were doing with that combination of equipment, what I found were forum posts where people were maybe talking about M81 or sharing pictures, but then there were other people in the forum post that had that equipment in their forum signature. And so it would just kind of make the search results useless because I wouldn't find what I wanted. I could find images of M81, and there were people who commented who had my equipment, but it wasn't the equipment that was used to take the image. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? And then I realized that there was no such place where you could index and categorize all this information that comes with astro imaging, because what I think, and I think it's not a controversial opinion by any means, is that astrophotography is not just something like where you go and you take a picture, you point and shoot, you save it, and then you're done. Like everybody knows, it takes like hours and hours on the field to image, and then even more hours to post-process. And it comes with so many technical details, all the integration times, all your configurations, your calibration frames, all the various bits of equipment that you use. It's just so many information to go with an image. And as somebody who is like data obsessed in a way, it just really pained me, honestly, it just pained me to go online and see images posted on like random places, like general purpose image hosting websites. And I'm not even going after Flickr or anything like that, even though it's general purpose, but I think about, I don't even remember the name, like Photo Buckets or what these places were called, which were places like completely like festered with ads, like lots and lots of ads. And then you see this image, sometimes with compression and absolutely no data with it. And I'm like, okay, nice, but what am I going to do with this? It just pained me to see that there was this disconnect, and this data wasn't like preserved for posterity, right? And for people to learn from. And so I had to do something about it, because that's just the way I am. And I started working on AstroBin. The name comes from, well, Astro and then bin. Sometimes I worry if it sounds like a trash bin, to be honest. But the name comes, basically I got inspired from a website called GIF bin for the animated pictures. So to me, the bin part is like a container, like you would find in the kitchen, like a plastic bin. It's a container of everything that's astronomy. Even the icon is like basically Saturn coming out of a box, because it's a container. And that's the idea behind the name. So that's why I started it. Then I basically side hustled for 10 years. It was sometimes like my effort during the 10 years was like kind of proportionate to how AstroBin was growing. In the beginning, I didn't have kids when I started it. So I had lots of time to work on the side to make this better and better. Then during some years, as my kids were growing up, I had a bit less time to do it on the side. So I was usually working in bouts. I would go for a few months, like really working hard and writing lots of new features, making lots of improvements. And then maybe I would have a little chill time where I would need to like recharge. Because obviously you have to remember that I was doing this always as a side job, next to my day job, next to having 2 kids. So it's always taken a lot of time. The monetization of AstroBin has always been kind of a struggle in the beginning. My idea in the beginning, so obviously starting out, I didn't know it would get this big. I had some thoughts that it might get big. I had some plans for scaling. I had some Excel forecasts about growth. So I had ideas, but I didn't know for sure that it was going to get this big. But initially, the idea, I mean, AstroBin started for free in 2011, and I started paid plans in 2016. And I mean, this is going to be a heart-to-heart discussion here, right? So I'm going to be quite open. In the beginning, I got a lot of backlash about it. I got lots of people supporting me, as usual, like most of the people supported me, but lots of people went like, okay, this is weird, this is now paid, it was free. Lots of people felt like it was a bit like what's the word, like baiting them into the free account and then switching, which is absolutely not what happened. Obviously, the thing is that I wanted to keep it free at the beginning, but I just couldn't. With the growth that happened, AstroBin is quite expensive to run. Even more so that it's much bigger than back then. But in 2016, it got so big that it was just, too expensive for me to run. Before that, I could chuck it up to like hobby money, but after that, it was just too much. So I had to do something about it. Ads weren't cutting it in the beginning, and as well as I tried a donation-based model, it wasn't cutting it. So I went for paid plans. Then after that, after some initial backlash, people, understood obviously that it was needed to keep it running, and I always got an extraordinary support from the community, and I will talk more about this later. But this community is incredibly mature and understanding about all things. So I'm very impressed with this community, to be honest. Since 2000 and since 2020 basically. No, wait, what am I talking about? Since 2021, this year, I went full-time on AstroBin after 2020, which was an incredible year, a very difficult year. It's funny for me to say difficult year when I know that 2020 was an actual difficult year for so many of you people out there. For me, the difficulty of 2020 was in the fact that I took it to myself as an opportunity to go like kind of take a risk and go like all or nothing, and I basically doubled down on my work on AstroBin. At the time, I was working full-time, 30 hours a week, which is not much, but we had basically cuts in our work time due to COVID. So that was an opportunity for me to invest extra time into working on AstroBin. So I started working on AstroBin 30 hours on the side. So I was doing like the whole of 2020, about 60 hours a week, which is not something I like to boast about or anything, because I know that people do this like on the regular. And for me, it was just a year that I did that. But for me, it was quite hard to do that and context switch 2 jobs all the time. Anyway, I don't want to say that it was hard. I don't want to, because I know that people do that all the time, and I have incredible respect for that. But for me personally, I took the risk. I could burn out. My risk was burning out, but I made it through. And in the end, in April, I decided to make the move. I quit my day job, and now I'm working full-time on AstroBin, which is for me just an incredible privilege. I get everybody here who does what they love for a living knows what I'm talking about. For me, AstroBin is a child for me after my kids, because I have invested so much time into it for the past 10 years. It's a love child because I do it out of love. AstroBin is not a trivial piece of software. It's quite complex, not complex per se, but it's quite large, quite deep, and it's got a lot of breadth to it. And it can be intense working on it. Sometimes it could be like, especially if I have to like do fixes on the live production server with tens of thousands of people using it every day. It could be quite intense, and for me, it's a work of love. But it's a privilege to be the benevolent dictator of this community, and to be the man behind the curtain sometimes, and doing what I love and putting together astronomy and programming, which are the 2 things that define me. I feel super lucky. And this is all thanks to this amazing community. The community is super supportive. I get so much encouragement for what I do that sometimes I even feel it's undeserved, because so many people encourage me on the daily, and not just with your financial support, because you get, like, I mean, you pay me to do this, but also with every message. I mean, so I do user support tickets every day, right? I get tens of tickets every day with people that need something from me because they have a problem or something not working or something like that. And what I observe, as I compare to my previous jobs in other places where I've had experience with a wider audience, which is not a niche like astronomy is, what I observe is that this community is incredibly, it's made up of so many intelligent people, and you can tell from the way you can converse with them that you're talking eye to eye with intelligent people. Everybody's super helpful. They if I get a bug report, I get so much politeness and correct reproduction paths for what's going on. For me, it's just amazing to be able to constantly being talking eye to eye with so many intelligent people. It's like it's a great experience to be in this position.
Salvatore, could you
Yes.
take a couple of questions and comments?
Yes, absolutely.
Could you give us some of the statistics of AstroBin? How many users, how many active users, how many images are online, things of that nature?
Yeah, so so AstroBin has a total user base about 50,000 users, not all of which are active. Active users are about 12 to 15,000. And so I'm talking about users with accounts who are active in the past 6 months. But there's a much larger number of users who are like visitors, basically who don't have accounts and just browse. AstroBin makes about 3 million page views per month, and I have about 10,000 unique visitors every day on average. Number of images it's been about 600,000 images that have been uploaded to the website. But live images that have not been deleted are about closing into 500,000 right now. Is there any more questions before I continue?
That's incredible. Wow.
Yeah, actually, the most interesting tidbit I would say that out of this 500,000 questions, images, 20% have been uploaded last year. So 100K are 2020 images, just to give an idea of the growth. And I'm expecting another 100K for 2021 about.
I think a lot of people were imaging in 2020 when they weren't working.
Yes, yeah, yes, this is true. I mean, AstroBin saw a lot of growth in 2020, and in my position, I have had the privilege to speak with a lot of people in the industry, lots of CEOs from retailers, manufacturers, everybody, because of AstroBin has ads for the free tiers and also for the light tier and for everybody else who doesn't opt out. So I'm in contact with the companies, and everybody mentioned how 2020 has been a year of growth. So I guess the pandemic has had something to do with that. People spending more time at home and maybe trying new hobbies and so on. And it's not just astronomy; it's other things that I have interested in. Have seen growth and in general. So maybe the pandemic has something to do with it. Are there any questions? Any more questions?
Are most of the people just posters, or I know you have a data storage arm of the business as well?
So let me think. I think that most of the people who are very active on AstroBin also post. but I would say that no, the majority of people who visit AstroBin, they're not there to post, but they're there to consume information. They're there to look at the images and mostly to research to research equipment, to research images, and to see what you can do with some equipment, which is basically why I made AstroBin in the first place. It evolved to be this way because this was the question, as I mentioned earlier, that prompted me to start it. Like, what can you do with my equipment? And that gave me the idea to build this highly interconnected database that is easily searchable and browsable, and so a lot of people just use it to figure out what to buy next, to ask people, do you use this telescope? Also, I'm interested in this telescope, and how does it perform? And maybe ask technical questions. So people use it that way a lot.
I see you have a team on AstroBin. It's always listed at the bottom of the pages. Can you tell me how they are part of AstroBin?
So team, what's listed at the bottom of the page is the translation team. AstroBin is localized in 13 languages, or maybe 14 now, with the addition last year or this year of simplified Chinese. The team is volunteers who have helped me through the years to translate AstroBin. That's the largest and most significant contribution that I got from other people. The rest, basically the source code is 99.9% coming from me. Over the years, I got some contributions. AstroBin is open source, which means that you could easily, not very easily, but you could replicate it on your environment, on your computer. You could deploy it to your own server and call it astrowhatever.com, right? And basically copy it. You could do that. Not the data, of course, that's in the database, but the source code is open. So it's for everybody to see. The reason why I did that is there is two reasons. One is that I'm a big open source supporter person. I think the idea behind open source is great because it allows people to learn, and I'm all in to allow people to learn. And you can see that with AstroBin, because the way I try to promote publishing information and exchanging information, that's behind one of the big things behind AstroBin's vision. And I like people to learn from source code, as I do learn from other people's source code all the time. And the second reason is that I was trying to get some help, right? So to get some contributions. Over the years, I got some minor contributions from several people, which I'm super thankful for, but unfortunately, nothing major. So I would say 99% of the source code is my own making. But yeah, the team is the translators, the localization team. The rest of the team is the image of the day and topic selection team, which I will talk about this a little bit later, how the process works, if we have time.
Well, that would be a good topic I think we're all interested in, is how do those selections make? How do you, I see that process of image of the day has kind of evolved over the last few years. And it can be a source of some discussion, let's say.
Yeah, I'm going to touch on that later. Yeah.
So can you talk about that a little bit?
I will in a moment. It's I have a cue sheet, and that's one of the topics, so I'm going to get there.
Okay.
Salvatore, when you were talking about the number of people who have signed up and actively use, or even have used it in the past, you were talking about individual separate individuals. How many astroimagers are there in the world, and what percentage of that market are members of AstroBin?
This is a very good question, and I would love to have the answer to that question, because it would tell me how much market penetration AstroBin has. I don't have the answer to that question. I was talking to some people in the industry about this. There were some people who were estimating there would be maybe 500,000 people in the world who would be like astrophotography material, to say that. So I'm not talking about visual observers, I'm just talking about astrophotographers. Personally, I don't believe that. I think that's too much. I think that there could be 500,000 people in the world who might be interested eventually in doing astrophotography, or go to astrophotography websites, or like space pictures, you know, to keep it general that way. But I think that the actual number of people who would actually do astrophotography, it would be maybe 100 or 200,000 people in the world. And I get this number from you can also see like on Facebook groups. I mean, AstroBin is a paid platform, so it's going to have less memberships than a Facebook group, for instance. And then you see that the big astrophotography groups on Facebook are about 80 to 100,000 people. And there's several of them, each one of them probably with an overlap of people. So in my opinion, up to 200,000 people in the world could be.
You know, I would say, I don't want to say I would disagree, but I think that the number of people who are astrophotographers who actually generate an image, I don't want to say worthy of posting, but would probably post it, is probably much lower. And I would think AstroBin has a reasonably high market share of those individuals, not the occasional person taking a picture of stars, but those people that are what we'd call astrophotographers. So I think you have a pretty large market share or market penetration.
I think it's pretty large, but I think it's not complete. I don't think that everybody is on AstroBin, at least not posting. I think that most everybody knows about AstroBin, and most everybody visits it or has, you know, stumbled upon it for sure. But I think that not everybody has a paid account, or that would make me very wealthy, which is not the case. But I think that most people at least know about it. Yeah, for sure. It has been very influential. It's been told to me, and I need to be falsely modest to agree with that. And AstroBin has been very influential in the past 10 years in the industry as a whole, and it has helped even the industry as a whole to grow. And this is coming to me, has been told to me by CEOs of large distributors and retailers of astronomy equipment. And I would say that they have a clue about what they're talking about.
Well, again, I'm not saying anything I don't think that everyone would probably agree with, but the alternative to something like AstroBin is having your own site, doing all of that programming or taking programming from someone else, maintaining it. And then if you're posting it, you're likely to want people to come and visit. And there's no comparison to what happens on AstroBin. So I think very few serious astrophotographers are maintaining their own site, and most are coming to AstroBin. That's my opinion. I could be wrong, but it seems that way.
Yeah, lots of people do both. Lots of people like to have their own website, to have their own touch, you know, to make it look the way they want. But they also post to AstroBin for the social aspect. But actually, the main source of competition, if you will, for AstroBin is the free websites. Like you can post on Facebook and you can post on Instagram for free. And I mean, they totally butcher your images. I mean, especially on mobile, it's really, really, really bad. If you go to Instagram and then you go on mobile and then you pinch zoom your image, you see it's just so grainy. Facebook is just as bad, slightly better on desktop, but it's still quite bad. I mean, for me, one of the reasons why AstroBin just applies zero image compression is that, I mean, this is the whole point. We like to pixel peep. It's you need to, you know, share at full resolution, because you just worked so hard for an image just to get it butchered by Instagram compression algorithm. It's just, for me, it's unacceptable. But of course, this has a cost, and AstroBin cannot run for free like Instagram can, and AstroBin doesn't harvest your data, doesn't sell your data, doesn't do any of that stuff. on purpose, I collect as little data as possible. You see it when you sign up, and I don't do all that stuff that all the big social networks do, because it's just not my style, not my jam. I don't like it. I don't do it. I'm never gonna do it. And that's why you pay for the account, basically.
You want to get back to your list?
Yeah, let's get back to the presentation as you had it planned.
Let's get back. I'm gonna go a bit faster now, because I thought I was gonna have not enough time.
You relax. If you have that much to tell us, well, there are other Sunday nights or Monday mornings at 3:30 in Europe.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
By the way, Salvatore, everyone has come back.
Okay, that's
so
great.
They're very interested in what you have to say.
That's awesome. All right.
Go ahead.
So my next topic, because I mean, this is the behind the scenes of AstroBin, right? I mean, when I signed up, when I agreed to do this presentation, I didn't want to do a presentation about what AstroBin is, how to use it, because I think that most people know that. So touching back on what we just talked about with Eric, I think that would be like kind of moot. But I want to talk about things that people don't know. So I want to talk about the behind the scenes, and I want to share what my challenges are on the daily about working on AstroBin. And there's just lots of challenges, right? As you can imagine, especially the ones of you who have an IT background and a software background know what I'm talking about. I'll do it in a non-technical way, but I want to touch on the challenges. As I mentioned, AstroBin is not small. It's not large. It's not like the Facebook, or it's not like Google. It's not like huge, of course, but it's a lot of code, and it's quite challenging to operate and maintain and improve all by myself, right? AstroBin is something that if I had, so I do everything by myself. And this is not just coding. There's lots of aspects in running AstroBin. I will touch on that. But if I had a team of 30 people or even 50 people, I could literally fill up an office of 50 people and keep everybody busy with so many things that could be done on AstroBin. Unfortunately, this is not the reality, because while AstroBin is profitable and it supports me and my family, it cannot support more people at the moment. And this means that things take more time, right? So I have a huge roadmap. I have huge ambitions for things to bring to AstroBin, to improve the community, to improve so many things that can happen. But it just takes a longer time than if I had an office full of 50 people to work. What you see on AstroBin, you see improvements all the time. I've taken up since this year to posting a mailing list every month where I share what's new this month. And every month you can see that I add new features, I fix bugs, and I make improvements all the time. AstroBin is very, what's the word? Sorry, I'm blanking. It's a highly developed platform. It gets improved all the time. During 2020, I committed to the source code repository over 2,400 times, which means an average of 7 times a day. Every commit, every source code change, if you will, for those who are not, who don't have this background. So 7 times a day, I applied improvements in the source code of AstroBin on average. Obviously, some of them would be trivial changes. Some of them less trivial. Some of them might be like small bug fixes, and some of them will be bigger features. But on average, this gives you an idea of how busy I was in 2020. And 2021 just looks the same. That's the average I'm keeping. It's a lot. I have to say, the reason why I can do that is that I know AstroBin like the back of my hands, and I've been working on it for 10 years, and I know it's very easy for me to move through the source code and improve it. If someone else was to get started, it would take a long time to ramp up. But for me, I can be like extremely effective in working on AstroBin. I can say that again without false modesty. I'm also a software engineer with 25 years experience, so that also helps a little. So, but what you see in this mailing list, when I share this information, when you see new features on AstroBin, when you see stability improvements, it's just the tip of the iceberg. There's just, well, at least half of the things that I do, you don't get to see, because it's like infrastructure, background work, dependency upgrades. You have to keep up with the software dependencies, because otherwise it's a security risk, right? I'm very, very happy and relieved that this very week, few days ago, so I worked very hard for the past week to upgrade some core dependencies. So upgrade the core programming language, the core libraries to the latest versions. So to get more, to avoid getting into versions that are now unsupported and that would not get security fixes. So I'm very proud to have done that just recently, to have to be running on the most recent upgrades. It's really hard to me to just stay out of technical territory, but trying. So this means actually, I'm also very proud that AstroBin is pretty much state of the art when it comes to software practices and the software stack. It's very modern, but not bleeding edge. But it's very stable. It's, I would say, very secure, because I run all the security patches all the time. This takes also a lot of my time to being at the top of this game. The software architecture is quite good. I would say that there's two parts. AstroBin is 10 years old, right? So 10 years is like ages in software, and some parts of the code are a bit more legacy, and some parts are a bit more modern. And I've been for years in a process of modernization, and you're seeing it. You see it, for instance, on the upload page. You see that it's slightly different. It's on app.astrobin.com instead of www.astrobin.com, and I'm doing a technological migration there as time goes by to modernize and always keep at the top of the game. There's lots of other things that you don't see on the daily. There's a lot of spam control myself on AstroBin. I mean, I could delegate this, but it's not that much. If it would take hours on my time every day, I would delegate, but it's not hours, so I don't do that. So AstroBin gets spam every day, but you don't see it because it all goes through the moderation queue that I review. Post image spam, and there is spam in the comments. So new users, they get their comments reviewed in the moderation queue. Something else that really takes a lot of my time every day is user support tickets. So as I said, there's about 10,000 unique people that visit AstroBin on average every day. That means if one person out of 1,000 has a problem in a day, that's 10 people a day that have a problem. So I get support tickets. Some of them can be answered quite quickly. It's like maybe an FAQ link. Some of them I have a canned response, for instance. I'm very happy and proud. I run a ticketing system, so I don't just do email. I have a support system running on Zendesk. So everything gets a ticket number, it gets prioritized in my queue of tickets. You get a ticket number, as I said, so I don't forget anything. I'm very, very organized. There is no ticket that goes without a response. Sometimes it could take longer. I would always tell you if it takes longer because of priorities. But usually, actually, my response time on average is like maybe an hour or two. That's on average. So considering that I actually do sleep at night and I get my 8 hours, so I'm very responsive. So I get about on average about 10 tickets a day, but some of them will not be trivial to address. Some of them will require maybe some investigation, and I will have to dig through the logs to figure out maybe why this person had a problem and how to fix it. Sometimes when that happens, there's maybe a bug, a software bug underneath, so I go ahead and fix that. Sometimes I get a user support ticket because the user didn't understand how to use something on AstroBin, and that could be a usability issue. So when that happens, it means that I have to improve how the website communicates something, right? So that the next user is not going to have the same misunderstanding and same problem. And so this leads to continuous improvements all the time. Another big thing that takes a lot of my time is server maintenance and issues. So this is, of course, the server upgrades that I mentioned. I had to apply the security patches all the time and maintain the infrastructure. AstroBin runs on lots of servers. I have about 10 servers that it runs on, which is a few of them are the main app servers. So AstroBin is actually, talking about state-of-the-art, extremely scalable. If AstroBin was hit by a massive traffic spike because it went super viral somewhere, right, and it got 1 million views in a day, it would be no problem at all. It would scale automatically and instantly to cover the extra demand of traffic. So I've got several application servers. I've got several database servers that are replicated for performance. I've got caching servers for performance. Of course, I've got the search database, which is separate and indexed separately. What else? Few more bits. I've got the PixInsight plate solving server and so on. So with this complex software architecture and server architecture, it means that there's going to be problems every now and then. I mean, raise your hand if you ever used a computer before. Everybody has used a computer before, and you know that computers are problems. I mean, software engineering and computers, it's still a relatively new science, a new engineering field, and they glitch all the time. And we know from tonight when we had audio problems, right? So there's problems all the time, and I have sometimes to firefight these problems. Sometimes, many times it's not my fault or AstroBin's fault. Last year, AstroBin was down at some point for 6 to 8 hours because Amazon Web Services, which I use, had a problem with one of their services, and I couldn't fix it for the same reason for the same problem. The same problem that was keeping AstroBin down was preventing me from fixing it. So I had to wait until Amazon fixed it, and it took 6 or 8 hours. Or sometimes astrometry.net has a failure, and then plate solving is down for a few hours. So in these cases, I have to do something. Before 2020, this was much more of a problem. In 2020, especially in the fall, I spent a lot of time, maybe a full month, working on infrastructure and to make it more robust and reliable. And this is much less of a problem right now, to the point that today I can go on like weekend vacations, for instance, and not take my laptop with me, which is something that I did for the first time this year. In 10 years, I went on a weekend away and I did not take my laptop. So first time in 10 years, I actually celebrated. AstroBin architecture, I touched on the servers. I also want to mention, again, going back on the state-of-the-art idea, AstroBin runs in a completely virtualized environment, which means that all these servers, they're virtual. If anything were to happen to the configuration, it's literally, for me, it's one button to run one script and bring it up on a new set of servers in less than 5 minutes. That's the time it takes for the software stack to come up. So super reliable. The database itself is extremely reliable. It's replicated for performance, and the data is backed up twice a day with a 2-week retention. So at any times, I have 2 weeks of database backup to go back to if anything were to break or happen to the data. The images, they're also backed up 2 times, and they're versioned so that every time, if an image were to be deleted accidentally, it could always be restored. And then there's a first backup, and then there's a second backup as well for the images themselves. For the curious, we were talking about data. AstroBin stores about 12 terabytes of data. It's not that much if you think about it. I mean, some people could take a terabyte of data in one night of imaging planetary stuff, right? But it's just the finished JPEGs and PNGs, right? So it's not the same thing as having the full raw data. But yeah, there's about 500,000 or 600,000 images take about 12 terabytes of data. By the way, I mentioned images. This doesn't count the revisions. So many images have revisions. There's, I don't know off the top of my head how many revisions there are out there, but it's probably another 500,000 or so. So one other thing that really keeps me busy a lot is dealing with bugs. And AstroBin has bugs, and all code in the world has bugs. In fact, more code, more bugs. Invariably, if you have used a computer for more than one day, you know that all software have bugs. You use any website, any app, anything, you will bump into bugs. Maybe sometimes you won't realize, but most of you people will realize. And myself, on the daily, I use software made by multi-billion-dollar corporations, which has like lots of bugs. I was like, why don't you fix it? You know, AstroBin has bugs, and when there's a bug, I get like tens of emails say, well, why is there this bug? You know, why is this not working? And sometimes I use like Instagram or Facebook, and I was like, I noticed these obvious bugs, and I was like, how do you not fix them with like tens of millions, hundreds of millions of users? But the reason is that it's complex, and especially with more complex software projects like Instagram or Facebook, which are like arguably more complex than AstroBin. Obviously, they have more code and more bugs, and AstroBin has bugs as well. I don't deny it. Many of the bugs are regressions. A regression is when you fix something, and in the process of fixing something or adding a new feature, you break something else. AstroBin, again, is quite state-of-the-art with this respect, because I have a very extensive, fully automated testing suite, which means that every time I push a code change to AstroBin server before it goes live, AstroBin runs all these automated tests that verify that nothing else is breaking. But because the test coverage is not 100%, and nor it could be, that means that sometimes still something breaks. And so I fix that, and fixing bugs is a good chunk of my time. If I didn't want to make any new bugs, I would have to stop adding new features at all. I would have to just keep it that way and not touch it anymore. Which actually, it's something that I could do. To be honest, I could rest on my laurels. I could stop doing anything. I could go to the beach because AstroBin makes money and it's profitable. And if I wanted, I could work 1 hour a day to just do basic maintenance, and user support. But I don't do that because it's a work of love. As I have said, it makes me very busy, but I like it. So that's why you get, in my opinion, what is a great product, because it's a work of love and nothing else. So
Salvatore, we're kind of running a little bit. Could you get into some of the other questions that might be out there? The whole business of selection of images for awards, I think, is one that we all have a keen interest in. And by the way, several people have asked, do you have any time to do your own astrophotography?
I don't do my own astrophotography anymore. I used to. Between 2011, so when I started in my backyard. I was in Finland. It was very frustrating because the weather was really, really, really poor. And then I moved to a remote setup that I was hosting at AstroCamp in Spain. By the way, hi, they were sponsors, so thank you very much. And I was sharing that with a friend who works for them. It's called Samuel. And I did that until 2016, or maybe 15. After that, I just started to be too tight with the time. I'm thinking about it in the future, but right now it's like really tight, so I'm not doing it right now. But because people want to know about the image of the day and the awards and stuff like that, so I'm going to skip to that. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Actually, I'm going to share my screen now because I can share a page about that. So just a second. All right, I suppose you can see my screen now. Can you?
Yes, we can. It
Yeah,
takes a few seconds to unmute ourselves and answer your question. So
yeah, all right, okay.
Just
sure.
give us a moment.
Okay. So the image of the day, people know about, so AstroBin has an image of the day. So the word is system. It's not contest. It's not competition. I'm going to talk about this. An image of the day system, and then it has a topic system. The goal of the system is to share and promote astrophotography. The image of the day, which appears on AstroBin homepage, if you're logged in, is not just seen on AstroBin, is shared on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, and it's then shared and reshared and reshared by people, and it gets seen by tens of thousands of people or hundreds of thousands of people also outside of AstroBin. It's been running since I would say 2013 or 14. Yeah, 13 for sure. Yeah, 12 probably, but 13 for sure. In the very beginning, when AstroBin was very small, the image today meant that I logged in. I was like, okay, these are the images uploaded today. I like this one. Boom, image of the day, done. And that was it. Today it's a much more complex system. Today's image of the day selection is happening through a team of about, well, there's about 200 people on the team, but not everybody's active. So I would say that by now it's about 150 to 100 people who are active on the team. And it happens through a process of three layers. There's a layers of volunteers called submitters. The submitters, they get a queue of images that were uploaded during the past 48 hours, and they decide they have 3 slots, and they can put some images in the slots to move forward in the process. So it's like a funnel. So right, you start with uploading an image. Every new image goes into the funnel. It has to be a deep sky or solar system or cometary, or it has to be an astronomy image. So equipment images don't count, or images categorized as other don't count. So you get into the funnel unless you exclude yourself explicitly in the settings. You can go through the first stage, and you need 3 votes from 3 distinct submitters. If you get these 3 votes, you get into the slot. You go to the next step. Your image has 48 hours. If during 48 hours it doesn't get the required 3 votes, it's out of the queue and it's too late. It's never going to happen for that image. The next step is called reviewers. There's officially 64 of them. They get the input for the previous step of the funnel, so they get the submitted images, and again they go through another layer of selection, layer in the funnel. In these first 2 steps, the submitters and the reviewers, the images are anonymized, kinda, because you could still go through the recent upload and find it, if you want to know who is the person behind that image. But it's kind of like tedious, and it's lots of images, so you don't want to do it. People don't do it. So at this point, people can go, images can go through this next stage, which is stage 2, and images have 5 days in this stage. They are in the queue they have 5 days of opportunity time, of window time, to be promoted to the final stage. The final stage is that of the judges, and there is 8 judges who are all active. And at this point, images are not anonymized anymore, because I want judges to have all information required to be able to select an image of the day. Every single judge has veto to select an image for a future available slot for the image of the day. Usually the full week is booked, and when you click an image to select as an image of the day, it's going to be for 7 days from now. So at that point, the image is made image of the day for that future date, and it's selected. I mean, the judge can revoke it if they want. It doesn't happen very often. Sometimes it happens because other judges go like, hey, you know, are you sure about that? I noticed this and that, and maybe they discuss it in the forums. They have internal forums where they can make these discussions, and that makes the selection. So it's a process that takes about 2 weeks at the most, and it works like a funnel. It's a process that evolved over the years. The goal of the process is to be as democratic and fair as possible. The image of the day is not a competition. I don't like to call it a competition, but I understand why people can see it as a competition. And this is a bit controversial, right? It could be seen as a competition because there's like limited resources. 1 image per day can be image of the day. Topics, we get about 10 per day. It's not limited in that way. Like, it's not like a strict limit, but it's sort of, it comes from the fact that submitters and reviewers, they have a number of slots. So that really can't be more than this 10 or 12 or 15 images a day per day, topics per day. So it's the limited resources that people want, so they compete for them. Sometimes this can cause some controversy or animosity, as there have been some instances in which people have been actually caught cheating, and this has been extremely rare. I think this happens once or twice, that somebody cheated and got caught, which means got caught to me means they admitted getting caught. They deleted their account and disappeared. Happened once, maybe twice. There have been some controversy some other times where people were doubtful about the authenticity of an image because it was just so extraordinary, and extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And what happens is that the team will reach out to an astro imager if there's doubts and ask for the raw data. And every time people have been very cooperative and have submitted the data, and the stuff has analyzed it, and they always came clean. For me, this is a great point in transparency, and how the system really actually works. What doesn't work in the image of the day, and again, heart-to-heart discussion, right? And I get some complaints or critics about this, but there is something that doesn't work. The thing that doesn't work is that there is a limit, right? It's there can only be 1 image of the day per day, and what happens is that some great images sometimes are left out, and people go like, hey, this image is great, why is it not a topic? And the reason is that during that period of time when that image was in contention to become a topic or an image of the day, there were even greater images, or images perceived to be greater, right? I mean, it's also a matter of perception. So I have plans to address this. In the future, I'm thinking end of this year, beginning of next year, if I manage, there's going to be a custom community-driven contests module on AstroBin, which means that the image of today is still not going to be a contest or a competition. In my view, in my vision, it's still going to be just a way to promote astrophotography. But there will be actual contests because people like them. And these contests will be open to every sort of category. So people have asked me lots of times, what are my views on splitting the image of the day into categories? My view is no, I don't want to do that because it's not a contest. And there's no bias. You know, all images are treated equally. Today's or yesterday's image of the day was an image of the ISS, which was an incredible animation of the rotation of the ISS, which like really blew my mind. And we have had a solar image before that, and we had lunar images, and obviously deep sky images are more represented, but that's just also because they're really more represented on AstroBin in general.
You know, Salvatore, there's really no satisfying everybody on this on this image of the day, and I don't know. I would say don't try to do that, because it's a rabbit hole which you'll never reach the bottom of. But speaking of controversy, you occasionally have trolls or people that make comments which, you know, are untoward. How do you deal with those?
Okay, so thank you, Eric, for that. It's a piece of advice that I get often. You can't please everybody, and
not everyone gets a trophy. So
yeah, and it's maybe a character flaw that I have. Maybe I try too much to please everybody. It's been told to me, but maybe it's something I need to improve. But to me, it's been working out. I think that I can get to please most people. But how do I deal with trolls? That's actually something that was on my list of topics. But yeah, I'm actually very happy about the community, as I mentioned. I think that compared to other places, maybe because there's a paywall, but there's a bit more quality. I think that the community is very polite, very civil, and the discussions on the forums are extremely civil and on topic almost all the time. Every now and then there is a troll, with much less frequency than other places, and I get told this every time. When that happens, personally, I have a lot of difficulty dealing with that, because I'm not hard. I'm quite soft in this, because I believe in second chances, and I believe in people having bad days. What I do is that I privately contact people and tell them nicely that, hey, you know, your behavior is not appropriate, well, according to the AstroBin community guidelines, and then I point them to the guidelines, which is basically a paragraph of text saying just be nice to everybody and use common sense at the end of the day. And what happens is that people usually apologize and tone it down, and that's it. And I get this also personally when I get messages personally or user support requests. Every now and then, even though it's a very polite community, as I've said, every now and then somebody will be rude. And then at that point, I usually don't tolerate it. And I go like, sorry, you've been rude to me. This is not necessary. There's a person on the other side of the screen. All to help you. It's, you know, it's my mission to help you with your problem, but don't be rude to me. Don't do that. And 100% of the times, people have apologized and they have said, I'm having a bad day. I'm really sorry about that. Let's start over. And one person said, I'm really sorry. I'm taking anger management classes. And, you know, I totally sympathize with that. So my philosophy, my position in life and in dealing with this as an administrator of AstroBin is to never make assumptions and always go with the idea that maybe sometimes people are having a bad day and give them a second chance. And on the forums, sometimes I have had to moderate and close topics, but usually I do that if it just goes too much off topic and the conversation has run dry at this time and it's not necessary to continue anymore.
Are there,
so
are there
that's
some
how I
key
do.
points that you'd like to cover that we've missed out on?
You mean for the rest of the presentation?
Mm-hmm.
So let me see. Yeah, I think that maybe I want to talk about some future plans as last topics, last of the topics. So 5 more minutes to talk about the future plans. Oh yeah, still sharing. Let me stop that. So the thing that keeps me busy at the moment is something that is very important in my opinion, which is the defragmentation of the equipment database. AstroBin's equipment database is user-driven, which means that people input freely their equipment, that there's an autocomplete so that it kind of to minimize the duplicates and the repetitions, but there is still duplicates. Right now, there's lots of duplicates in terms of, well, not lots, but a significant number that I want to address. People spell things in different ways, maybe with a dash, with a space, with quotes, with a capital letter, and so on. So there's duplicates, which leads to a search fragmentation. So if you search for something and you use a certain spelling, you are missing out on some of the results which use a different spelling. And AstroBin tries to be smart about it, but I cannot make it too smart because it's a double-edged sword. If you make it too smart, you start getting false positive results. So what I'm doing right now, which is basically the entire focus of this year as big features go, is working on a database of polished, curated equipment, which will be linked to actual product, linked to retailers, linked to distributors, have all the information about the products, have product images and so on, and completely remove the fragmentation of the database. So which means when you search for an equipment item, you always find all the images taken with it, all the users who have taken images with it. This is going to lead also to something very nice. I want to build communities around equipment, because I see people do this all the time. They try to connect with other people who own the same equipment to exchange information, tips, and so on. What's going to happen is that these equipment items who are very polished and curated and not duplicated will have custom pages. So you will have a page for every product on AstroBin. And on this page, you will see all the images, well, not all, but a selection of images, and then you can click to search for more. You can connect to the people who have the same object, the same equipment item. For instance, there will be a dedicated forum for every piece of equipment, and you can post on the forum, and everybody who owns the same piece of equipment will be able to get a notification if they want that somebody asked about that telescope or that camera, and that will allow people to gather around these equipment items, which I think is going to be extremely useful. Something else that is in the works for this year, I hope, if not beginning of next year, is this custom community contests, where you can have custom contests for everything that you can imagine, like backyard astrophotography, cheap equipment astrophotography, DSLR astrophotography, solar only, lunar only, ISS, whatever you want, the galaxy of the month. I mean, it's just going to be open to community, and I have plans and ideas to make it extremely fun and engaging. So just stay tuned. It's going to be lots of fun when that happens. Another big thing I want to do, and now we go into next year, because these are big things that are going to take a lot of time. So next year, I want to do a second-hand marketplace that is going to be tightly integrated within AstroBin. So let's say you have a telescope and you want to sell it. The classic way is to put an ad somewhere, right? But what if, in addition to the ad, which could be on AstroBin, your item which is for sale would be marked for sale on your images? So people who don't go to the marketplace, but they bump into your image, they could see, hey, this great images was acquired with this great telescope, and it's for sale, right? And it's in my area, right? So the possibilities for integrations are really, I don't want to say endless, but there's lots of possibilities to make this really, really nice and improve what's out there right now in terms of classifieds. Another idea that I want to pursue, but this is still kind of like in the clouds in my head, it's a data marketplace. So you could sell your own data, your raw data, for people to post-process. And I know that there's a market for this, because people constantly ask, where can I get some data to post-process on cloudy nights? And there are companies who sell data, and they're sponsors, and I support. And maybe there could be a marketplace for this kind of amateur data that could be, an opportunity for people to share their data and to learn from each other. I want to improve the forums a lot. For me, forums are not just a discussion platform. I like the idea of information, I like the idea of correct information. This is a technical hobby where there's opinions, but there's also facts. And I like the idea of promoting actual correct informations. So I want, if Terry posts an answer to questions on the forum, I want people to be able to mark that question as accepted or correct or have upvotes or something, so that people can learn and find information that are actual and correct. Something else that I could get into on AstroBin is prints. It's something that I would like to work on in the future, partnering with someone else who would do the prints and trying to offer this as a way for people to sell their prints on AstroBin and maybe make a profit out of that. I have just so many things to do. I mean, these are some bird's eye view, some high level topics, but there's just so many infrastructural changes and app modernization changes that I need to do. I need to port so many parts of the legacy code to the new systems. It's just endless. I mean, I'm gonna be doing this for a long time. There's just so much to do. And I have a super secret, top secret feature of which I'm just not going to say anything at all, but I'm working with it on it. And if that happens, I have to say if, because I don't know for sure if I can pull it off. But if I can pull it off, I have something in the works that is going to be absolutely amazing. If I can pull it off, I hope this year or early next year. But I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna say anything about this. Sorry about that.
That would be a good conclusion.
Yes. Are there any more questions?
Somebody asked why you can't upload like the PixInsight format or the TIFF format.
You can upload the TIFF format.
What about the PixInsight, the XISF?
So the PixInsight format, you can upload, but not to this. So you have to keep in mind that your browser, which is where you look the image using, English. You see the image, you view the image through your browser. Your browser cannot display the PixInsight format. It cannot even display the TIFF format natively. So if you upload a TIFF on AstroBin, AstroBin needs to convert it to JPEG anyway, right? So the only reason why you would upload a TIFF or a PixInsight native format is to store it for safekeeping. And you can do that. You can do that on the ultimate plan. You have in the action menu, you have upload uncompressed source, which lets you upload the XISF from PixInsight or the PS2 from Photoshop or a TIFF or a FITS. Then you
what
can
about it displaying MPEGs?
Displaying what?
MPEGs. Video formats. Video formats.
Oh, video format. Yes, this is sort of also in my backlog. I haven't planned for it, but I would like to do it eventually. So historically, this hasn't happened because it's complicated. I mean, it's not trivial at all, and it would take a lot of my time to maintain also a video codec support and all this time and all the complexity that comes also from having to support these larger files. So for now, I have not done it. I could do it in the future. I might do it the simple way, meaning that you upload to YouTube and then you put the link on AstroBin, and then AstroBin embeds the YouTube version, which might be like the most practical way of doing that instead of having to support a whole new complicated software stack that comes with it.
Yeah, and that way you don't have to deal with all the data storage that comes with videos.
Yeah.
By the way, that ISF animation, that's a showstopper. There's no doubt about that.
It's mind-blowing.
I think some of the comments were, I'm going to have to give up. I got to stop doing this because look at this.
It got a lot of comments. Usually solar system images that gets fewer comments and likes on AstroBin just because there's like fewer people interested in them. But this one really got a lot of comments and likes and views, but for good reason.
Well, that's great. This has been a wonderful presentation. Sorry for the glitch in the middle, but as you said, it's software, and probably either Google or one of the other software did an update, and you know what that means. That means trouble.
Yeah.
Alex, are you
I'll
there?
have to do
I'm still
some
here. Yeah, sure.
further texting.
Molly didn't panic, and she worked her way through it.
Yeah, and I think it's clean. We actually have a separate. We have two videos up there, probably one of which will be shown, and the other one we'll put in the blooper reel, like so many of our other productions.
I'll go double check things and get things cleaned up. And yeah, I'm gonna do some further testing with my microphone setup, because it'd be really nice to only use one computer instead of two for doing this. So
Okay.
I'll work on that.
Salvatore, do you have anything else you need to tell us? We are running a little long, but is there anything else you want to say in conclusion?
No, I just want to reiterate how I'm thankful for this whole community and how great it is and how privileged I am to be doing this. And you can expect that I'm just going to do this for a long time. I'm not taking around with the money or anything like that, because this is, as I said many times, it's a work of love for me, AstroBin.
Okay.
Don't take it. I would do it for free. I mean, but
okay, great. For those of you who are only watching now and didn't see earlier, and I think Connor was blocked off anyway. Connor, wake up there. I'm going to be calling on you in a second. Could you tell us again what you told us at the very beginning in the part of the show that was lost?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know how many people in the chat know me, especially personally. But for those that don't, I am a planetary scientist as well as an avid astrophotographer. And a lot of my research focused around Mars and Martian rovers and Martian reconnaissance orbiters, stuff like that. So I really wanted to take the time to sort of show what goes into making these images of planetary surfaces and see like how we have some overlap between what we do in astrophotography versus, what people at NASA are doing. So by the end of it, hopefully I'd be able to, work through someone who's at least moderately familiar with astrophotography, how they could create one of these images.
Okay, so that's coming up next week. Coming up on August 8th, Arno has been doing a lot of work getting gorgeous galaxies together, and we've gotten all the galaxies that you guys have done. We haven't yet decided on what we're going to do next in the way of a video production, but we are going to go ahead and do a video production. We will be showing gorgeous galaxies on August 8th. So we've got a little bit of time to prepare for that. And also at that time, we're going to announce what you guys have chosen or recommended anyway for putting into the next time we do a video, which should take us up till about Christmas. So think about what the next video should be about. Sure, you can key it to a season, but there's things that don't happen in the season. Get a theme, something that you'd like Arno to work on as far as making a really pretty show, showing off all the wonderful people who hang in there with the Astro Imaging channel and submit their photos. And I think that wraps us up for the week. I want to thank Molly especially for toughing her way through all those horrible glitches and all that other stuff. Is there anybody else in the room that needs to say anything?
No, Salvatore, hang with us a few minutes after we end the show.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're
Okay.
already awake, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And thanks for having me on the show. It was fun.
No,
Okay.
I was looking forward to this one especially.
Okay.
Thanks,
So
Salvatore.
bye-bye, everybody.
Good night.
Bye. Thanks for watching.
Good night. Thanks, Molly. You're in charge again.
All right.